Many of you have probably been exposed to the story of Brock Turner, the swimmer who got a very, very, very lenient sentence for committing rape of an unconscious woman behind a dumpster. And the victim wrote a really, really powerful statement that she made to the judge in the court, and it's really was very searing. And many of you, if you haven't read it, I really recommend you read it. It's very brutal, but not as brutal as experiencing rape. So I just, do yourself a favor and read it. It's really a great read, a really important read. Anyways, it made me think a lot about, in her statement, she mentions like how the, his defense team, but also like just at every level, like investigators, basically, caller, I will get to you in 1 second. Every investigator basically questioned her choices of like, how much did you drink? What were you, why were you back there? What were you doing? And it made me think of the film Cape Fear. The remake of Cape Fear in 1992. Basically, the premise of the movie is that Robert De Niro was convicted of, rape. But there's a scene in the movie where Nick Nolte's having a conversation with another lawyer, and he basically exposes that he didn't reveal this in court, that the victim was promiscuous, and he uses that word. And I was very young when I saw this. I saw this movie in the theater with a friend of mine's family, and he basically, it's a serious moment. It's like all the weight is given to this moment where he's like, yes, well, I didn't admit this in court, but the victim, she was promiscuous. And it's just given this weight. And I feel like from a narrative standpoint, it was meant to sort of give the impression that like, oh, well, then Robert De Niro's character maybe has reason to go chase after Nick Nolte. And it's sort of like this, it was meant to narratively add like a little bit of a conflict and a little bit of a layer of like, oh, well, maybe, did Nick Nolte really screw him over? And it's like, it was a weird moment. I didn't know what the word promiscuous meant. I asked my friend's parents that I went to the movie with, and they were like, you have to go ask your parents what that means. Eventually, I found out what it meant. And it's still like it's still like in my head, I was just like, that's weird. Like, why? How does that like allow for rape or torture or murder of any sort, being promiscuous? But that's a message. And if you read this victim's statement, those are the questions that are given to her of like, how much did you drink? What were you wearing? Blah, blah, blah. And it's given to a lot of rape victims. Were you promiscuous? Were you sexually active? As if like that's a justification. And like, I've had to learn just growing up, you hear those messages as a male, you hear those messages, and caller, I'll take your call in 1 second. I've had to learn just as a male, like you have to let that go. Like you have to like, uneducate yourself of that miseducation. I don't know what everyone's intentions were, the screenwriter and Scorsese's intentions were with adding that detail into the film. That's our topic, accidental miseducation. If anyone has ever watched something from their childhood or even their adulthood, and you received a message about maybe a group of people or the world or yourself, or even, yourself and your own identity, your own culture, that you somehow, that sort of you feel like maybe infected you or you see infecting the world around you. I would like to live in a world where a woman can walk down the street naked, drunk and high, at 3 a.m. in the morning, screaming, "I love cock," and we would all as a society agree that that's not grounds to rape her. Am I crazy? Am I some sort of dreamer on that one? I don't think there's any justification. It's bizarre to me. And it's like the one crime that like is justified. Like a breaking and entering of your home. Like, well, how much did you have to drink, sir? That someone stole your stereo when you were passed out. Like nobody does that. Even like if somebody like left their door unlocked, like everyone would still prosecute the person who broke in and stole your property, because we value property more than people. Like the Steubenville, Ohio situation where the girl was passed around and violated while she was unconscious. Please Google that if you want. That was also, again, you had enough people being like, oh, well, why she shouldn't have gone to that party. It's like, And any of these guys, like any man who's saying all this, like if a guy, like I've passed out drunk before, like I mean, any guy who passes out drunk and like there's like a big cucumber shoved up his ass when he wakes up. I mean, how many people and how many men would just sit there and be like, "Oh man, you shouldn't have drank so much." You look, dude, you were wearing some shorts that night. You were wearing some tight shorts. Maybe think nasty ass thoughts. And I saw you fucking this person in the stairwell. So you deserve that cucumber up your ass.